Okay, I think it's time. So, if that's okay with you, we're going to start our workshop. Do you hear me okay? Yes, perfect. So welcome to this workshop dedicated to a very interesting and challenging topic, which is addressing the resource challenge, building a resilient and sustainable strategy. So maybe this works. Maybe not. So yes, it's coming. Okay, great. So just to introduce the subject before introducing our panelists, just to give you a few figures. So since the 16th century, the population has been multiplied by 14, 1/4, our energy consumption by 115, and our production by 204. Okay? So it means that our global material footprint is increasing, and is increasing faster than our economic growth and our population growth. When we talk about global material footprint, what type of materials are we talking about? We're talking about minerals, we're talking about metal ores, we're talking about fossil fuels, about biomass. And today, to sustain our consumption, we're consuming more and more of those materials. And right now, it's 100 gigaton of material per year. It was 30 gigaton in the 1970s. So you're going to tell me, okay, why does it matter? What is the problem? In fact, there are two challenges. The first challenge is that the supply chain for those materials are very vulnerable, meaning that either we have a lack of those materials, or those materials are spread around in different countries, and so there are supply chain disruption, price volatility, price increase. So first, supply chain is an issue. The second challenge is that the extraction and the transformation of those materials is the drivers for the major environmental impact. Today, 55% of greenhouse gas emissions are linked to the extraction and the transformation of materials. Most of the biodiversity impact are linked to this extraction. The same for emission of particles in the air and the impact on human health. So we have this supply of those materials, and those challenges, both supply and environmental impact, imply that you might have short-term disruption, price increase, price volatility. So the question is, how are we going to decouple our growth compared to the consumption of materials, and how are we going to decouple that from the consumption of virgin materials? And we know some of the answers. The answers is to reduce the quantity of materials we need to produce our goods and services, and to increase the circularity of those materials and those goods. Just to give you, and this has been highlighted as well, I don't know if you've seen the Clean Industrial Act from the EU. So there is a huge chapter about critical raw materials and how we need to build the resilience and the dependency regarding those materials. And circularity is, of course, the heart of it. So that's the topic of our workshop, how organizations can source and manage those resources to address this challenge. And what we are observing in our work KPMG with our client, we are observing two things. First, this topic is becoming more and more strategic, so it's becoming a boardroom issue. And the second dimension is that today there is no longer differences between resilience and sustainability. Those two are really connected all together, and resilience is addressed connected to sustainability. So I propose that together, for the 40 minutes we have, and together with our participants, we explore how those companies and organizations along the value chain are adopting the strategy, what they're doing, and how they're developing the circularity, and as well how they crack the business case of circularity, because we know that it's not such an easy topic. So thank you so much to my panelists for having joined us. So first, Véronique Andriès, thank you, your VP Sustainability and CSR for Alstom. Arnaud Brunet, your General Director for the Bureau International du Recyclage, Bureau of International Recycling, and Geoffrey Richard, your Circular Economy Director for Schneider Electric. So maybe my first question would be for you, Véronique. Regarding this material challenge, what are the stakes for you, for your activity sector? What are the most challenges, and how are they evolving?
Okay, so thank you for the invitation first. Then I would like to say a few words on Alstom for those that don't know the company. So Alstom is positioned as a global leader in sustainable mobility. Proposing a wide range of solutions for railways. Starting from rolling stock, TGV, metro, monorail, so all the type of train, basically. And we are also proposing a lot of services. And it's very important if we speak about circular economy, so around maintenance, spare part, the modernization, refurbishment, and also some activities, some services around circular economy on the second-hand part proposal. And last, we are also proposing some system, infrastructure, and signaling solution. Then, coming to your question, first, I would like to mention that we have just reinforced our strategy on resources preservation to consider the evolution of requirements and expectations on this topic. Looking at the priority regarding the material, what are the most critical? I would say simply that a lot of materials are critical as far as the price evolution is a key component of our competitivity, and we all know that the prices are rising. And if I have to quote something, I would say cobalt, for instance, in energy storage solution. Then I would also like to rebound on what you have said during the introduction. I fully agree. Resilience and sustainability is clearly to be seen as one topic. Just want to mention that circularity is probably a solution for being resilient in terms of access to resources, for sure. But in another hand, circularity is also could be also difficult to implement in a world where we have to be more resilient, especially versus the climate event. So clearly, if you want to reuse, to refurbish and reuse a port that is designed and manufactured against some standard, to be able to reuse it in a world that is changing with other specifications, it becomes difficult. And I will stop there for this question.
Okay. Same question, Geoffrey, for you and for Schneider Electric. What is at stake? What are the big hot topics for you in your sectors?
So, thank you very much for your invitation. I'm really glad to be here to talk about circular economy. So, first of all, who is Schneider Electric? So, we'd like to, we are a 39 billion company, international company, and we operate in two different market segments, which are energy management from one side and industrial automation from the other side, which with those field of activity we cover, which leads to CO2 saving in the operation usage. Okay, so we qualify Schneider Electric as a GPS, a global provider of sustainability, for which for each emission we have then a solution. What are the stacks? It was your question. I mean, like any other industrial company, we've got like 4 big stacks, which are competitiveness, supply chain management, people attractiveness, obviously, and green transition. Talking about green transition and also doing a rebound with your introduction, you were saying before that we multiply the population, we multiply the energy consumption. Let me give you some additional figures, and I'm sorry for those additional figures, but anyway. In 2050, we're going to be 2 billion people more on the planet. This is the first statement. And if we go on that way, on our, let's say, standard consumption way, we will consume 182 gigaton of raw material per year, which leads about between 2.5 and 3 planets each single year. So we can't stand at that pace, okay? And to get back on your question, what is really important for us is to, let's say, find the right access to second-hand raw material. And moreover, we are focusing on copper because electrification leads to CO2 reduction, but to electrify, we need some copper. And according to the, let's say, consortium of scientists, we've got more or less 25 years of copper in our field, okay, that we can exploit. And the thing is, after those 25 years, no more copper. So what we can do to electrify and to reduce the CO2 emission. So copper is at the first stage of our preoccupation. Okay.
Just keep the mic.
Yep.
What are the maybe 3 or 4 elements of your strategy to deal with your challenges? What have you put in place?
So we have put in place 2 big items. The first one is the eco-design. We think and we truly believe that if we reduce the, let's say, raw material consumption at the decent stage, okay, we will obviously we will require less raw material. So eco-design to the entire Schneider Electric portfolio of offer and services to make those brand new offer more circular and less raw material consumed. The second pillar, obviously, is the circular economy. And we have developed in 2015 dedicated strategy to address the topic of circular economy based on two main pillars. The first one is circularity for supply chain resilience, and the second one is circularity for business, which means that owing to circular economy, I'll be able to bring back to the market second-hand product. Okay, so we do as good as new product, even better because they are CO2 less emissive than the brand new one. And with the product we are not right now able to refurb, we place it in the second pillar of our strategy, which is the supply chain resilience. And we extract less and less primary raw material, and we use more and more second-hand raw material.
Véronique, same question about your strategy, what you've put in place.
Yeah, sure. First reaction, I like very much your as good as new product. Very good concept. Well, in terms of strategy, our sustainability and CSR strategy relies on 5 main priorities, and I will illustrate on 3. The first one is regarding the decarbonization, and on this we have a huge ambition covering the different scope, and looking at the scope 3 comes the relation with the circularity, in the fact that using recycling, using new as good as new part would allow to reduce the carbon footprint. So this axis also encompasses the adaptation to climate change, and then that's very important to understand the relation between the decarbonization and the circularity. The second priority is about resources preservation. This one look at eco-designing all what we are doing. First, second, to develop a circular model, and third, to address the biodiversity. And as well, very important to have a look, an holistic look on the different environmental concerns. That's why. And the third one is about the value chain, and especially the supply chain. That is very important when looking at the implementation of circular economy. I would just add, in terms of success with this strategy, so with our previous strategic plan, we can be very proud to have achieved 100% of our portfolio that is following the eco-design process, so with improvement in terms of the different parameters that are important for the environmental performance. We have already 25% of recycled content in the train we are proposing to the market. So, just
great transition for you, Arnaud. So you're representing all the actors of the value chain, I would say, on the recycling end of that, I guess, both for Alstom and for Schneider. What do you see from the point of view of recyclers regarding these challenges about resources, and what is happening, and what are the trends you see?
Thank you. Thanks again for the invitation. And Geoffrey, if you need copper, we will provide you with recycled copper. Don't worry about this. So everybody knows BIR, but for those who may not know BIR, so BIR is the Global Federation of Recycling Industries. We represent something like 30,000, at least 30,000 companies around the globe in 71 countries. We have 1,100 corporate members, so recyclers, corporations being members of BIR, plus 36 national associations. The commodities we trade is ferrous, non-ferrous, such as copper, aluminum, but also papers, textiles, plastics, alloys, tires and rubbers, etc. So we do international, we process, we collect, process, and trade globally commodities, and so we are central to the circular economy. You asked me to prepare a few figures about the impact of recycling, so I'm going to deliver this. We did a study in 2016 that's going to be updated thanks to KPMG, that globally the recycling industry was saving 700 million tons of CO2 emissions a year. I think that's well underestimated today. So we not only by recycling save CO2 emissions and fight global climate change, but we also preserve resource, and that's the key to circular economy. Of course, metals are probably the easiest commodities to recycle. You can recycle today, 85% of steel is recycled, 75% of aluminum, but plastic is merely 9% globally. So we have lots of room to improve. And when you look at the impact, I just have always one figure in mind, which is when you recycle an aluminum can, you're saving 95% energy, so probably as much as CO2 emissions. So this is what we provide to the society, and this is where we are central. Now, the next question was, sorry?
What are the trends you see? How do you see the market on this? Is it...
So the trend is that we are more and more recognized for what we do in terms of carbon emissions, transition to greener energies, and resource preservations, but we are not recognized at the table of negotiations. That's one of the challenges we have. Our share of voice is less important than our real impact in the transition and to the reach of circular economy. What we see also is two things. First of all, we see a massive transformation of the industry towards concentration. Recyclers around the globe are mainly family businesses, small and medium enterprises, and there are some concentrations over there, but what we see is vertical integration. We see manufacturers, producers willing to secure the ownership of the materials, and which buy processing companies, integrate them, join EPR schemes, extended producer responsibility schemes, and also create their own systems to make sure that they collect, process together with the recyclers, and keep the ownership of the materials. One of the problems we see into this is that the DNA of the recycling industry is not local. It's a global industry. There are regions that create a lot of, I must say, waste, because this is the legal term, let's say recyclables. And those recyclables, when processed, have to reach their markets. And very often, it's not the same place. In North America, North America in general, in Europe, we generate a lot of recyclables that are used in other regions of the world. So the DNA of this industry is to produce one in one place and sell to customers which are overseas. And what we see is that globalization is more and more difficult. You know, there is a turn. I'm not going to pronounce the T word, but we see that some administrations are putting trade barriers, tariffs, but this is a global movement, and it's becoming more and more difficult to have those international markets open. So, my last word is access to market. The American says market access is key to us.
Okay, so that's a great transition with my next series of questions, which is what are the obstacles and the enablers in making this system work? So you already answered my question here. What we see as well, we see sometimes as well a mismatch between how the product was designed and what should happen at not the end of life, or at the end of the first life or the second life. So there is a big part around design as well. There are challenges as well around traceability. We see some of that. So to both of you, one challenge as well we notice with our clients when working around circularity is that the business case is not so easy to find, meaning that the cost seems a bit higher than the return of investment. So maybe, Geoffrey, you're next to me. How do you do that? How do you crack the code of circularity?
Indeed, it's not as easy, particularly when you work for a big company that has to, let's say, makes profitability for their stakeholder and shareholders. But what we emphasize in Schneider Electric, it's the cost of inaction. And with that, we are able to crack the code, internally speaking, with all the stakeholders from the different side, from GSC, global supply chain, the line of business, the business unit, whatever. When we emphasize to those people, the top management, the cost of inaction to not go into the circular economy, it makes really sense for them. Let me give you just one precise example. On the French market, there's a regulation called the AGEC, the AGEC law, which leads into one important thing. If you want to answer to a public call of tender, you have to be able to supply circular economy product. Okay? So this is what the law is saying. So if I don't go into circular economy, if I cannot propose to the market circular economy product, at some point I will never be able to answer the call of tender. And here is the cost of inaction. It's really as simple as that. Just emphasize to all the stakeholders that can say no. Okay? So find the one that are already convinced, highlight the one that can say no, and put them in their front, put them the cost of inaction and what it's going to lead as loss of market share, loss of CO2 potential savings, and so on.
Okay, great. Véronique, we were talking about enablers, obstacles, so part of the answer is about the business case. What are the other enablers and obstacles you see when putting the circular economy strategy at Alstom?
Well, for me, we need to obviously to crack this business model, and obviously as Alstom is in a B2B model, we need to have some clear expectation and clear requirements for the customers, and it is coming, to be clear. So a lot of customers such as SNCF or others are requesting some performance on that, and especially on recycled content, on recyclability, on repair. But for the time being, it's not strong enough in the quotation of tender. And clearly, for us, it's something that prevents us to accelerate as quickly as necessary. So the one obstacle is clearly this one, to have this valorized in the tender phase, so that we are able to justify sometimes of overcost that we may have with recycled materials, for instance.
Great. You were saying, Arnaud, and you were as well saying that part of putting in place a circularity is about as well working with the value chain and working maybe with different actors and with the ecosystem, if I can use this word. When we work with clients on this topic, what we see is that sometimes it implies working with new people or building new kinds of relationship with actors around the value chain. So maybe first to you, Arnaud, what do you expect from them, from the manufacturers, from the industry? What do you people from the recycling industry expect from them?
A lot. We expect cooperation. We expect to be discussing about many things. First of all, I think that when you look lots of things are driven by policy in our business, okay? Regulation. And we see that governments are more keen to support virgin production-based industries than recycled content industries. So we need the manufacturers, the producers, and the recyclers to push the governments to incentivize recycled content, mandatory recycled content, to make sure that there is no disbalance between recycled industries and virgin industries. And this is not the case today, so that has to be improved. We could also ask governments to facilitate access to public procurement based on recycled content as well. So lots is regulation-driven, and we need support of manufacturers. But this is not the only thing. We need to discuss with the producers to make sure that what they do is not only eco-designed, but designed for recycling. So we need to make sure that what they produce can be easily processed, and then we will take the materials out of it. We need to know what's the content of the materials. It's not a problem for metals, I would say. It's a problem for plastics or textiles. This is extremely tricky to recycle when you don't know what's into it. There's this huge debate about PFAS. You know, we need to know to better recycle what's in the product. Otherwise, we don't know. And that's a problem on the long term. So we need cooperation. We need to discuss. We need to sit at the same table when there is a EPR scheme, which is not the case today. So this is the kind of collaboration that we expect. And together, we need to talk to the regulators, to the politicians, to make sure that we have a level playing field.
Okay. Véronique, what do you expect not only from the recyclers, but from, let's say, the ecosystem, the other actors around you that are contributing to this optimization and circularity?
Well, so first, to the recyclers, what we expect is new processes for recycling new materials, and some materials are very easy to, not very easy, but are easy to recycle. Some others it's more difficult, so we need to develop definitely some filière. Then, obviously, we expect this to be cost efficient. Again, I'm sorry to say, but nobody is willing to pay more some recycling material. It's not. It's a nonsense to have this effect. So please, we need to work on that. Then, rebounding on one of your remarks, you are right. You are right. We need to cooperate on the information, making this information available all along the supply chain, so that it's possible, again, to repair, possible to refurbish, possible to recycle, and to recycle in a way that will not generate any pollution. So you need to know exactly what is inside the product. And for this, no other way than to use a kind of digital passport where the part is going to make available all the information all along the life cycle, again, allowing to do everything around circularity, using all the levers and making this in an efficient way, technically and economically speaking.
Geoffrey, on your side, what do you expect from the others?
We expect a lot from the others, from the recycled people, let's say, but also from our, let's say, friends from industry. At some point, we need to be aligned, first step, on the definition of circular economy. Okay, what we want to do. And we can see on this panel, but even on other discussion, that for some people, circular economy leads to recycling, but leads for some other to refurb, and so on. So just need to be clear at the table, okay, so at the same table, fully agree, and to define, okay, the same, let's say, the same definition of the things, then having common objective. I am fully agree and fully, let's say, okay to open my book to the recycled people, saying in this product you can recycle this and that, but we and I am also agree with you, Véronique, this has to be done in an affordable way, because we can't say to our value chain, okay, this cooper, because it's CO2 savings and it has been recycled on the French market, it leads to 50% more. This cannot be, let's say, listenable by the rest of the value chain. So what I am expecting from the entire value chain is that, talking again about Schneider, it's to cover the non-core business of Schneider Electric, for which recycling is one part of it, and then working with our own supplier also to find solution to get more, let's say, CO2 saved products from the upstream value chain. I don't know if I was clear enough for you. So find with the upstream value chain solution that will enable Schneider Electric to save raw material at the design level, and then making sure with the recycling people we can exploit the end of use of the product until the end, really the end of the product.
There is something I forgot to mention, but it's in the interest of all parties here. Is when there is today there is an arbitrage to be done between virgin and recycled, okay? And the cost, it's a cost driven, all industries are cost driven at one point in time, and this may come over circularity. And it's mainly because the environmental footprint of virgin materials is not fully accounted. It's not only CO2 savings, it's also resource preservation. And this is why we're working together, to have data about this, so that we can demonstrate and probably implement not only carbon credit, but going a little bit further, that the arbitrage is not only about the cost, it's about the environmental footprint. The best example is plastics. When the crude oil price is going down, recycled plastic is not competitive, let's put it this way. Whereas if you measure the total environmental footprint of both of them, then the balance is better, you see? So we have to go to that way. It's in the interest of the producers and the recyclers.
And I was as well answering your question, meaning at some point the recycling will be your upstream.
Indeed.
Oh. So maybe one last question to all of you. What are the, let's say, the daring, bold steps that your sector and your company and your organization could take in the 3-5 years to solve all our problems? Or at least those we were talking about. Okay, let's start with that.
Fully aligned with my colleague, at some point we need the regulation to tackle more on the brand new regulation they are incoming, okay? And we have seen some contradictive, let's say, sign with the omnibus of simplification from EU government. So first of all, I'll say we need a stronger regulation to let's say, emphasize more the use of recycling goods, of refurb goods, either on the public call of tender, but also on the private one, okay? And again, and I'm sorry, but the repetition makes the adoption, make sure we have all the same statement when we talk about circular economy. Otherwise, we can discuss and have a lot of panel, but if I say circular economy is white and my colleagues say it's black, we will never find a solution, to go further together. So alignment on definition and on objective, and then a harder regulation and a controlled regulation. It exists already some regulation on the market, French one, EU one, but it's the same with the seat belt, you know, I do the same analogy. If there's no policeman to control that you've got the seat belt, no one applies. And let me quote the Supply Chain magazine. I'm sorry, it's a bit old, but in 2024, they have done a survey saying that 75% of the industrial interviewed on the AGEC law, which is the law that enabled the industrial people to scrap brand new product, 75% interviewed were not even aware of that law. So regulations are already existing, but they are not applied because they are not controlled. So more regulation, more control, and alignment of all the stakeholders from the value chain.
Okay, great.
Okay, from my side, I would say that, again, the collaboration along the supply chain and the value chain is very important. It's important to share the development effort. It's important to share the practices so that we have something that is very optimized everywhere. And it's also important to share the value. So first point, and second, a call to our authorities and railways authorities and our customer to include some requirements on this in the tender phase, so that it can be valorized during the tender submission. And it's very important, again, probably the best way to have some progress on that.
Okay, to have a clear market signal.
Exactly.
Okay. Arnaud, bold steps.
My dream?
Yes.
I have a dream.
Exactly.
Okay. First of all, change the narrative. Scrap is not waste. Recyclables is not waste. We are a resource. We produce resources. That will trigger lots of changes in terms of regulation. So keep the markets open, no tariffs, no trade barriers, no export restrictions, no import restrictions, because it's a global market and it's needed for circular economy. In terms of regulation, make sure that the positive impact of recycling is accounted for, carbon credit, okay? Recycled content, mandatory recycled content, and eco-design or design for recycling. Those are the main objectives if we want to reach a true circular economy.
Okay, great. So let me try to reformulate a bit what we said and come to the conclusion and have some time for question. So what we've said, okay, there are this challenge with resources. So you've highlighted that it is a crucial one for your business. And what we see as well is its convergence between resilience, securing resources, and with the sustainability and the circularity of that. What you've said as well, it's important both to find a way to better collaborate around the value chain, build greater collaboration with the recycling, having clear signal. What we see as well, and that was my question about cracking the code of circularity, is how we are able to articulate the benefits of that in terms of return of investment. So of course there is a very obvious, maybe upfront additional cost, but there are as well additional benefits to that, and you can drive additional revenue. And what you were saying as well is have a look at the hidden cost or the non-tangible elements. So it can be environmental impact, but we see as well in the work we're doing with some companies that sometimes developing a circular strategy might drive more business, might bring more people. We were talking, for example, for textile, if you have a repair offer, then you might have more people in the shop, so it would drive traffic in your shop, so it would drive additional revenue. So what you're doing and what we're seeing as well is having a more systematic view on what are the costs, the benefits, and the revenues that can be driven by the transition to circular economy. So of course, if you'd like to dig further into the case studies, we will be here after the session, maybe a few minutes. But we have time. We have 4 minutes for question and answers. Sorry, I sometimes push you a bit, but I wanted to have some time to have question and answers. So any question, and we'll see if we can answer.
Thank you very much. I have a question for Monsieur Brunet. You were talking about comparison between virgin and recycled materials, and that we need to calculate the real price of virgin materials and then integrate it. You can't hear. So, better? Sorry. Good?
Better.
Better, thanks. You talked about comparing the price of virgin and recycled materials, and then today the real price of virgin material, environmental footprint, is not integrated into the virgin materials. So it's one thing to calculate it, but then what would be the options we have to force the price to be integrated into the real price of virgin materials?
So, yeah. So if you look at the pure functioning of the market today, it's difficult to compare recycled and virgin materials, of course, because you do not integrate, as you rightly say, the environmental footprint. When you go into the logic of measuring and giving a price to CO2 emission savings, to resource preservation, to water preservation, to land preservation, then you reach the real cost of two comparable, I would say, commodities. We are not there yet. This will not come out of the market. This will come through mechanisms imposed by regulators. BIR is advocating at supranational level. The UN, Basel Convention, Stockholm Convention, OECD, EU, World Bank, whatever. But it's a debate that we have today, but we're facing industries which are extremely powerful, producers, whether I don't name them, you know them, and it's difficult to come to that logic that in order to reach circular economy and favor recycled material, at least give a chance to recycled material, you have to give the right price. And the right price must incorporate the impact, the environmental impact.
Maybe to go into your direction, just two elements, what we see with working with our clients. There are not two directions, but two time frames. The first time frame is that today we already see clients integrating, for example, carbon prices. That's the obvious one. But as well, the risk they have in terms of, risk for some resources and integrating that, saying, so there is a risk is a cost. So already integrating that. The maybe longer term is there are works and academic works, and we're working on them as well, how to translate environmental impact into eco-cost. So that would be the similar to the, yes, please, Veronique.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to say it's only all about internalization of external costs. Huh? So, and that's right. This should not be done by only one actor in the...
That's
yeah,
true.
okay.
Another question? Yes.
Hi there. Thank you so much for your time on the panel. I couldn't help but think throughout the talk that a huge amount has been around the cost, around the push from regulation, around almost the negative requirements to force companies to change, when really the way that businesses can decide to change is through the positive commercial opportunities presented. You mentioned right there at the end the opportunities for the circular economy to drive commerce, and naturally for the recycling industry there is a commercial benefit, but for companies to make a change and see the profit, how do you see for your businesses commercial benefit beyond the requirements to comply with regulation or otherwise?
So I'm talking about my firm, obviously, Schneider Electric. So just to give you some additional light, we don't see at all the circular economy and sustainability as a constraint. And on top of that, some figures. In 2001, we launched our first sustainable policy. 2005, each single quarter, we published our extra financial report. In 2005, huh? In 2009, we decided to put on all the bonuses of the top management of the people the fact of reducing the CO2 emission as a target. Okay, and now it's 100% of the collaborators of Schneider Electric that are objective to the CO2 reduction. So for us, it has led to, let's say, a sincere strategic intention. So we do not do too much effort to go into circular economy or sustainability. And what, again, we see that it has led more profitability for the company, more brand new customer, and less lost, obviously.
No, but you are right. Thank you for the comment. Indeed, we have done a lot as well on this topic in a voluntary way. It's part of our DNA for sure, and we see some opportunities. But to go further, and again, the point is really to be able to accelerate, and for this we need to have a good alignment of the actors. But for sure, as well, we have started a long time ago to work on that.
Yeah, to go in this direction as well, what we see at our client, a lot of clients have put initiative in place. A lot of clients have run circular economy, POCs, and experimentation. And the good news is that we are reaching the stage now where we are asking ourselves, okay, how do we scale up this? Because we want a higher impact. And to answer this question of the scale up, you need to answer this question, do I have a business case for that? Because it's business, and do we have a business case? So the question is how we build this business case. And that's why, at some point, apart from, yes, we know that it will have a positive impact. Okay, well, we need to quantify that. We need to put numbers. We need to put hypotheses, and we need to say, okay, how are we going to gain? How is it going to cost? With different scenarios, let's stretch the business as usual scenario, see what are the risks, and just compare that with circular economy. But now we are reaching this phase where we need to have a solid business case for the scale-up. Sorry, yes.
And there's one thing which is interesting in what you said is how do we make it more marketable, let's put it this way. So in B2B, I don't know. Well, you got the answer. In B2C, the problem is how do you make it more sexy, more attractive to the consumers? I had this discussion with a car manufacturer some years ago who was betting on recycled content in their cars to say to the customers, to the clients, well, this dashboard is made of recycled textiles, whatever, and so on and so forth. We have 20% or 25% in the body parts, etc. Was it a trigger for the customers to buy? Not at that time. So it's difficult for the companies to leverage that. So it's an effort of communication. I think it will take time because the consumers, the citizens in general, are more and more aware and sensitive to that. But when it comes to B2C, it's an effort by the producer to sell what is recycled as equivalent or even better than virgin.
One last word. I'm fully aligned with what you said. The thing is, we have to, and we call it the rise of conscious consumerism, we have to make people aware of their own impact. Okay, so this is like 70, 100 kilos of CO2. Okay, what it consists in? I mean, if you are not a sustainable person or really keen on sustainability, 70, 100 kilos of CO2 means nothing for the common people. So make things really tangible. I would just want to emphasize what you say will lead to the success of circular economy, definitely.
Okay, and on the background, they told me that's it. So thank you very much. First, Arnaud, Véronique, Geoffrey, thank you very much for agreeing to participate and sharing what you've done. Thank you for listening to us. And have a good time at Change Now.